Hey y'all, and welcome to another episode of the Whoa What Word podcast by She Wears Worth, a place where we can get real and talk about all things as it relates to your worth, your value, your identity, and where it comes from. We want more than anything for you to live boldly and joyfully in who God created you to be. We are so glad that you're here. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Whoa What Word podcast. I'm your host, Courtney, and we have Taylor back on the show. So we actually last week had an episode. It was kind of the first one of the series, and it was all around how my worth has nothing to do with what I do. And we just really dug into that very simple phrase, but just how impactful it is and how it's really easy not to believe that we think we have to earn God's love. We have to do certain things, that it's very transactional. And so if you haven't listened to that, I would go and listen to that one first. And then today, though, we're going to talk about kind of the same thing, but in the past tense, that your worth has nothing to do with what you did and how it just does not matter what your past looks like, good, bad, great, ugly. You are loved and you are chosen and you're seen and God wants to know you. So we are going to unpack that. And yeah, I'll let you kick it off on just, let's talk about like what that saying kind of means to you.
Yeah, what that means. I think God's love and his longing to be with us, like that was before any of us were created, like he saw us, he created us, he wanted and desired and had his eyes on us and his heart was for us before we were even born. And then the crazy thing is that he's all knowing, right?
Yeah.
Like it's so hard to wrap your mind around that, but he's all knowing.
Yeah.
And he knows all these things that we're going to do. He knows how human we are, how weak we are, how much we need him, how little we sometimes use him, how far we are from him. And he loves us. He knew all of that. He died on the cross for us then, and he would die on the cross for us today. And I think that as much as, like we talked about, our worth, like we can't do anything for it, we also can't do anything that would make us exempt from it. Right. Like it's like we can't mess it up. Yeah. There's nothing we can do. We can try as hard as we want to be like, okay, now I've written her off. Yeah. She's done enough. This was the last straw.
She's out. We're kicking her off the team. She can't sit with us anymore.
We can't do it no matter what we do.
Yeah.
No matter how dark our seasons were, how far away from God we were, all the mistakes we've made, all the guilt and shame we carry. Yeah. Like it still doesn't change. It's a fundamental truth about who God is.
I love that. That's so good. You know what? I don't know if I've ever thought of it like how you literally put it, that before I was even born, God knew me and he loved me and he chose me. Like that's really cool. And so it automatically didn't, like he wanted to be with me despite anything that I was going to do.
Right.
And he also knew what my tendencies were and what my, like where I put where the mistakes that I was going to make, like he knew all of that. And like, I just want to also say too, that like, if you have not, Christ loves you regardless of whether or not you love him.
Yes.
And I think that is something that we just can't wrap our minds around. So like, if you have not accepted Christ into your heart, if you are even like, I don't know about this whole Jesus thing, not for me, like, okay, but that doesn't disqualify you. Like God still loves you and he's still crazy about you and he still died for you. Whether or not you want to be his friend, he desperately wants to know you. And that I think kind of always blows my mind.
Right.
That he was chasing after me and seeking me, even when I was like, no, I'm going to put you in this like box that I only open for every Sunday morning for like an hour.
Right.
When I'm like hungover.
Right.
Like,
right.
I don't know, just all of this, and we can get more into it, but like, I just think this is like so much of my story and understanding that who I was, the things that I've done did not change God's reckless love for me.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So let's go into like, have you had, like, what has your relationship kind of been like with Christ? Like, were there times when you kind of maybe had those moments of like, I can't believe I'm in this season. There's no way God loves me or sees me or wants me or.
Right. I think for me, when our stories are different in the sense that like, I feel like when you like got to have a relationship with God, it was like, boom, this like radical shift.
Yeah.
Of, like,
it was literally overnight,
and it was like,
yeah.
So easy. Whereas I feel like my relationship was more, I always had a relationship with God, but it was very distorted. It was very, like, it wasn't really, like, I didn't fully know who God was. I didn't fully know how God saw me, you know? And so I think that there's times where, like, I was always a Christian. I always had a relationship with God, you know, but then there was times that you just put God on a shelf and you just want to follow your own desires and do your own thing. And like, for me, at least, I think for a lot of us, we still go to church, we put it all together. We, you know, we go to youth during the week, go to church on the weekend, we do whatever we want in between. But it's like, but then, you know, we don't expect, like, we don't draw near to God because we're like, but I'm doing all these things. Like,
I got it. I'm good.
And it's just that classic, like, I'm going to look the part, but like, there's no relationship there. And if I want the relationship, then I know I have to stop these things. And these things are fun. And God's really not that fun right now. So I'm just going to keep doing this. You know, and then trying to, I mean, I grew up in a culture where that was like totally acceptable. Everyone did it. Nobody was like, hey, Taylor, maybe you should like just like reassess a bit. Like, are we?
It's not lining up.
Stuff's not lining up. You know, no one called out. It was all normal. Everyone was doing it. You know, and so then it was like, this is okay. Like, I'm justifying it to myself. You know. And then trying to make that shift of then being like, no, now I'm going all in. You know, like, I know I look like I was this whole,
but I really wasn't.
Time,
and no one
like,
knows the posture of your heart. Like, no one. And I'm sure, like, and we kind of have chatted about this, like, and when you make that shift, like, that is when people kind of look at you and they're like, well, what's going on? Or they try and, like, they don't accept you for these, you know, it says in the Bible that, like, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. Like, and that is so true. Like, I cannot, like, I feel like before I was, like, I feel like this is just, like, before I was that new creation, I was definitely that person that I looked at that and I was just like, okay, cool. Like, so magically now you just decide that you want to, like, wipe your slate clean and you're good. Like, oh, now you just are going to, like, wake up and you're what, like a virgin again? Like, I kind of looked at it almost like sarcastically, like, how convenient. But it was not until I experienced that and, like, my heart truly was like, oh wait, I see things differently. I think differently. Jokes that I thought were funny aren't funny. I truly was a new Courtney. Like, I was that. I get it. So, like, I see both sides. I see how I'm sure your friends were kind of like, what do you mean you're making me change? Like, Taylor, what are you doing? Like,
you've always been a Christian.
Yeah, you've been such a good girl.
You're being, you know, like, what do you mean now
you're like, I thought you were here this whole time. And you're like, well, actually, no.
No.
False advertising, people. So, So what was that like? Like, did you carry guilt with that? Like, or like, did you find it pretty simple, or like, did you work it through with God to be like, all right, like, I'm still worthy. Like, I know that you love me because, like, you wiped that clean. Like, I am. What was that like?
Yeah, I would say, like, you know, I think kind of the sad part is that I didn't even feel that guilty about it because I was like, it was so normal.
Yeah, everyone was doing it.
Yeah,
that's just what it was.
Nothing I'm doing is wrong. Like, I don't even feel bad about it. Because it's just like, it could be so much worse and you know, it could be whatever, but I think the bottom line is all that was doing was just hindering me in my relationship with Jesus. For sure. And it was hindering me in my growth with Jesus. And I was just staying stagnant and I was just like, I wasn't reaching I wasn't getting any breakthrough in my life. I wasn't reaching any new levels with Jesus. And I realized that once I had to really, like, if I really wanted to dive deeper, then it was like, okay, then you're going to have to start.
Yeah.
Like,
your life has to change.
Yeah. Like, I remember someone telling me, actually, and it really, like, stuck with me because they didn't know me that well. So I was like, how do you know this? But they were like, once you stop caring about looking like you have it all together, is when God actually will, like, you'll actually start to experience God move in your life. Yeah. And it's like, until, like, it was like, you know, as long as you had that, like, I go to church, I'm a Christian, everyone knows me as a Christian, so I can still do the stuff on the side. You know, once you can get those walls down and be like, hey, I actually don't, like, I actually am broken and I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm failing at a lot of things. Yeah. Is when it's like, okay, now God can use you.
Yep.
You know?
It's so true. And like just this, and I think too, it's like once you're then on the other side of that and you realize it and you start understanding, wait a minute, like these are the things that I did or I was doing, and God still was chasing after me. Like it kind of hits you like a punch to the gut, and you're like, how was I so unaware of like how loved I was? Like, and I think that's so much of kind of like my story was, right? Like after I went all in with Christ, and it was like I lived 27 years of where I was doing that the world was saying it's totally fine. Like, of course, like you've been dating this boy for how long? Well, obviously the next step is to move in with him. Like,
right.
It was the thing that blows my mind. Things were even that I did, like they were celebrated. Like it was so normal. Like move in with your boyfriend, sex before marriage, all of these things. Well, that big, you love him,
right?
But I didn't think that I was doing anything that wrong until after, right? I gave my heart to Christ, and then it's almost like you're kind of faced with this mirror that like you can't not look at, and you see all these things, and it was hard to wrap my mind around, like because it was like the shame and the guilt set in, and it took a long time to learn, okay, no, like the Lord wants to convict you, like he wants you to know right from wrong, but like shame, that comes from the devil, like very different. And so it took a while for me to try and figure out, okay, what is my like conscious, and like what is God convicting me of like right and wrong, and what is the devil saying, like, Courtney, you are a terrible person, I cannot believe you did that, like no one is gonna, but then, and I think for me, it was to get through that was literally, I don't think so many people told me, right? Like I, got into life groups and, dating Scott, and like just being told over and over, like, no, Courtney, like God has made you clean. You're a new person. He's forgiven you. Like you're white as snow, like all of these things. I don't think I believed it though, until I started like really reading the Bible for myself, and like seeing these stories of just like, I mean, like one hot mess after another of like,
right?
God used this person, God used this person, God forgave this person, God, like this person did this to Christ, yet like, and it blew my mind that like, it's like I lost count of the number of people who hurt God, who hurt Jesus.
Him personally.
Like him personally. Like, right. Like it's not even, it wasn't like the thought of him. Like they actually hurt him. And he still came back and loved them and died for, like, and then I was like, okay, well, wait a minute. I'm not that much different than Peter or Paul or like all of these, right? Like I was a sinful person. I made mistakes, yet God still chose me.
Right.
And that's how we all are.
Every one of us. Like to different degrees. Like some people are like, like you might think if you've done it bad, like I've done it bad. Like I've done it worse. And it's like, no, we all have. Like we all fall short of the glory of God.
For sure.
Every single one of us do. Sin is sin. And like Jesus does not look at you any differently.
Yeah.
He wants you just as much. Like he's chasing you just as much. No matter if you're past it, if you're in it, if you're doing it, if you're doing it right now.
Yeah. Like
he doesn't care.
Literally. You could be doing whatever it is that you shouldn't be doing right now. Or maybe you're in the car driving home from whatever it was that you shouldn't be doing. Or
and he's like, right now,
he
like,
still wants,
I want you. I want your heart. I'm chasing you right now.
Yes. Like I was listening to another podcast, and they were talking kind of about some similar stuff. And they made the thing where so many people think that you have to change and then you meet Jesus. No, you meet Jesus, and then through the Holy Spirit and what Christ can do in you, then you change. Yeah. Like there's no question of, oh, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Like, no. Yeah. Come to Christ. Yeah. And then you change. Right. He doesn't need you to be changed first. No. And I'm like,
want you changed
first. No, I love that. He doesn't want you changed. He wants you. Like,
he wants you.
I love that.
Because the minute he's getting you, you're faking stuff. You're like, I'll just quickly throw this under the rug and quickly get this. And like, then I'm going to approach him. He knows all of that. Like he, like, don't fake it. Like just go, like the more you can be real with God, like the more free you're going to be.
Yeah. And I think like, I know, you hear Christians, we always write like Jesus died for your sins, right? Like, so that, right. God sent his only son, Jesus. The only way to like, for God to be with his people, to be with us, was to send a sacrifice, which was his son. And yes, that is so much of the story. And but I don't, then there's that little part about how the clouds came over and the earth shook and the veil was torn. I never got that. Like, I spent so many years being like, okay, who cares about this veil? What is the veil?
Why are we talking about the veil?
What is the veil? You're talking about a bridal veil? Like, just so confused. And I remember so vividly when I like learned what that actually meant, right? And it's symbolic in what it was, right? So in the Old Testament, you had all of these laws, like 600 and something laws, crazy. If you want a good read, go read Leviticus and Numbers. Just kidding. Don't do that. Especially if you're new to the Bible. Don't do that.
Don't start there.
Don't start there. Anyway, so in the Old Testament, there were basically just all these laws, like how to do literally every little thing you can think of, right? Because it was God gave his people a list of rules in order to kind of keep them in line, quote unquote. And so the veil was when it talked about the temple, like you have to be a very, very important person to get in close to Christ.
Right.
And it's just this idea of like, there was literally like this curtain in front, like you couldn't see him. And when Christ died, like that veil was ripped in half. There was no more, like that day forward, there is nothing separating you and the love of God.
Right.
Like nothing,
right.
Like literally nada, which I don't know. I felt like when I actually grasped what that meant, that there is nothing separating me from God's love.
Right.
Except for maybe me, like
right.
not wanting it.
Right.
That's the only thing. And
right.
even then he still loves me.
Like if you want it, if it's like, hey, I'm going to ask, like, I want to draw near to you. I want your love. It's like, boom.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, it's like here.
It's not get
like
a line.
That, right.
Yeah. Take a number, wait in line. We'll get to
right.
you.
And do these things first. Clean up this first.
No.
None of that.
Mm-mm.
Like
no.
He is waiting. Like you think that what you've done has broken his heart.
No.
You not coming to him will break his heart more than anything
so
you could
good.
ever do.
That's so good.
Like there's nothing you could think.
I love that. Like, no matter what you've done, you can think that you've crushed. You're lost. The only way you'll be lost is by not just showing up and being like, here I am. That's good. Like your worth has nothing to do with what you've done.
No, nothing.
That is so good. And I know we kind of have chatted about this before. I think we started recording, but just this idea of like, I think I fully understand that like the first step to all of this is like, you need to understand that God does love you in order to like grasp what we're talking about. And like, it's hard, I think, to understand, especially if you've never felt that, like any type of just unconditional earthly love. But I do want to read, it's one of my absolute favorite verses. It's in Romans 8:38 and 39. And I say this to myself all the time. It says that I am convinced that nothing can ever separate us from God's love. Neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither our fears for today, nor our worries about tomorrow, not even the powers of hell can separate you from God's love. Like literally nothing can separate you from God's love. And like, I don't know. I just think I read that verse. I have it written all over the place. Like you are loved because in like you're loved by him. Right. Like, and I just hope, I don't know, like I hope people hear that so much.
Right. And I think sometimes like we complicate it. We're scared. Like, you see people and their lives and what Christians look like might turn you off, and the church is whatever. You have a bad feeling about it. But it's like, if you just trust for a second that Jesus is for you and he has his eyes on you, like it can be literally as simple as, I have no idea who you are. Yeah. But like, I want to know your love. And it's like, that's it. Yep. It doesn't have to be with anybody. It doesn't have to be with an organization. It doesn't have to be at some place. Like it can literally just be like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Yeah. That's exactly what I prayed. Like that night I put, Lord, I don't even know what I am asking. I don't even know what these other people have. All I know is that I want that joy. I want to live for you. And it like, and I really, truly, I did not have any clue. Because in my mind at that point, I'm like, I go to church every Sunday. I'm fine. Like, so I didn't. You had no idea what you were missing. I had no idea what I was missing. I had no idea what I was, because that's the thing. I think oftentimes it's like, oh, you don't know what you're missing till you're doing it. Like this is literally that scenario. Like you do not know how good your life can be, how fulfilling
and joyful, and not saying that it'll be like easy.
No.
Like a life with Christ is definitely not easy,
right.
but it is so, so good. And if it really, I don't know. Again, as you can tell, we're very passionate about this because we've experienced it. And I see so many people walking around constantly just striving for the next thing, whether it's approval, like whether it's acceptance, whether it's love, like constantly looking for things, striving for things. And that is their motivator. And it's just breaks my heart because I'm like,
because it will always disappoint you.
Oh, always.
Like if it's of the world, even if it's the most wonderful person that God has put in your life, they will disappoint you.
They will disappoint you.
It's not if, it's when.
100%.
Like you set yourself up. Like it's like, you know, they will. Like apart from Jesus's perfect love for you, it's just the life will disappoint you.
Yeah, they will. And that's okay. Like we're humans. And if like, it's been like that literally since the beginning of time. I mean, since literally Eve took the bite of that apple. Way to go.
Thanks for
I know she really messed it up for all of us. But anyways, I don't know. I just desire, I think this is another one of those messages that it's so much easier said than done. It's like your worth has nothing to do with what you did. I do think that when it does come to dealing with any sort of sin, and in God's eyes, all sin is the same. I think that is important to know that, like, whether you are, gossiping about your friend or you cheated on your spouse, like in God's eyes, his love is so infinite that like sin on the vast scale of things, sin is sin. Sin breaks his heart. It doesn't matter what it is. And just this idea of it doesn't matter what it is that you're doing, what it looks like, come to him and he wants you. And I just don't think we can say that enough.
No.
Yeah. So I think we'll kind of wrap up. But I want to encourage you that, there are so many, don't just take me and Taylor's word for it. I mean, obviously I want to encourage you, like I said earlier, for me to understand this and like really start believing it. I had to start reading the Bible and learning about all of these characters, literally from Adam and Eve all the way through the end of the New Testament. There is just character after character that not only does God like use, but like runs after, desires them, that hurt him, that like physically hurt him, that break his heart, that make him cry, that all of these things, yet he comes back. And so honestly, maybe start there. Like I am more than happy. I'll put in the show notes a couple of stories for you to read that will really point back to this. And any last thoughts, Taylor, on this?
I don't know. I could just say like, I don't think that, I mean, so many times before coming to God and like turning our lives around and coming to Jesus and giving him a chance, you see like the do's and the don'ts and all the things you have to change and stuff. And like, don't even worry about that. Like that's just this false idea, like just come to him exactly how you are. And like the rest is just going to take care of itself as it takes care of itself.
I like that. It's not a like, well, if I follow Jesus, can I do this?
Right.
Does it mean I can't do this? Like,
because I promise you that whatever it looks like the fulfillment of the world that people are losing, they are gaining so much more in Jesus. He has so much more than they have to offer, but don't even look at that. Like you can be doing things of the world and come to Jesus at the same time. Like that's the bottom line. Is like he wants you today.
And naturally, as you grow more with him, your life will change. Not because you are following rules, but because you want to.
It's just your heart's changing. You're changing. Your desires are changing. But it's not rules. It's not a rule book.
No.
It's not.
It's definitely not a rule book.
Judgment. It's literally like just
come as you are. And I love it. So thank you again for being on here for this time. And then the last time that we talked about this, and we'll continue to just unpack this and, maybe circle back on these topics more, because I think there's a lot there. There is so much to say. And I think it's a constantly evolving thing. Like my worth has nothing to do with what I did. Like, I'm a sinful person. Like, so are you.
So and it's continuing.
It's continuing. Like I'm always doing things, and there's always going to be past tense of things that I did. So, and I think it's just important to keep evaluating that and knowing that like, I am not the sum of my mistakes. I am not the sum of my great accomplishments. Like I am
a daughter of Christ. And like, that is how I identify, and nothing else can change it. And so anyways, as always, guys, our girls, faith is an action. It is a verb. We want you, yes, to listen to all of these things. And I hope that it stirred in your soul, and it hopefully got you excited, and it gave you some freedom to know that wherever you are, whatever your life looks like in this very moment, you can come to Christ and he wants to meet you in it. But take an action, whatever that looks like. Talk to a friend. Literally, you can close your eyes right now and just be like, hey, God, haven't chatted in a while. Or, hey, God, haven't talked to you ever. Like, just do something. Take an action. Don't just sit in it. He is so desperately waiting for you and wanting to like meet you and know you better. He loves you so much. Thank you again for listening, and we will see you next week. Taylor, thank you, darling.
Yes.
You're the best. Bye, you guys.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode. If you love what you heard and what we're doing here at She Wears Worth, make sure to follow along at She Wears Worth on all social media platforms. Also, it would mean so much to us if you could subscribe to this podcast, share it with a friend, and leave a comment. We need your help to spread worthiness around. We'll see y'all next week.